Am I the asshole for refusing to take the blame for neglecting my 2-year-old niece? I, 20, am the type who prefer to live in my own world most of the times unless working or asked to be social, and usually spend my weekends alone in my room with doors and windows closed, headphone overhead, and either watch drama or play games. I live with my parents and sister, 23, who is a single mother, for now that is, complicated, of a 2-year-old. I woke up at 1 p.m. on Sunday after binging a series of movies the previous night, cleaned myself, ate something and went back to my room. At around 4 p.m. my sister stormed into my room and screamed at me. I was confused at first but then understood that she had left my niece in the house and I was supposed to babysit her. I don't mind babysitting but I didn't remember her telling me anything about babysitting the previous day. She told me to check my phone and there it was, a text previous night from her telling me that she would be out next morning and asked me to feed and look after my niece till afternoon. I missed it. I honestly did not know that the baby was in the house and assumed that nobody was home. My niece had been hungry and must have been crying for a very long time, though I did not hear anything, soiled herself and was rather miserable. My sister kept yelling at me till she got into tears, calling me unreliable, useless, waste of space and some vulgarities etc., which might be true but I don't really care. I responded that she should also be ashamed of herself for leaving her baby to someone as unreliable as me without even bothering to confirm that I have received her message. She is the mother and primary caretaker, not me, and if anything she is the one neglecting her child. My sister cried harder, left my room and hasn't talked to me since. For the peace of the family my parents have been urging me to apologize to my sister for being harsh on my words and pushing blame to her. I can apologize if that is what they wanted, but I doubt she would forgive me. I think I was just stating the truth though. Am I the asshole? Edit for clarity. I do have a job, study and pay lower than market, rent and do chores too. Just that I don't like human interaction in general, so when not required to be social I prefer to be alone reading, listening to music, watching drama or gaming. I don't remember hearing my niece crying that day. It could be me, my headphones cancelling out her sound, or that when she wasn't crying anymore when I came out. It could also be me being completely oblivious, can't deny that possibility. There are hundreds of messages on my phone every day, from advertisement to group chats and personal messages. While I do get notifications I don't tend to check messages that frequently when I am not working, so my sister's message got lost in there. Yes, I am apathetic, always had been, but I can be social when needed and get along with my peers. No, I am fine, so I don't need professional help, just like how being gay isn't a mental issue that needs to be corrected, no offense, just a comparison. My niece is fine. Not the asshole. She did not have confirmation from you that you would watch her child. Not the asshole. As you said, it is her child. She should have made sure agreed to it and not just send a text. I also don't get why she sent a text. You live in the same house. Why didn't she just ask you in person? Not the asshole. Why didn't she give you the child in the morning? She just left the child alone in a room without knowledge that you were aware. That is extremely negligent. Info. There is so much missing here. There's no way you were in and out of your room, the shower, the kitchen and other common areas and didn't hear a screaming 2-year-old all day. In addition, your sister's reaction was so over the top she's either insane or, more likely, there's more to it. Is she completely overwhelmed and desperately in need of some support? You live in your parents' house but spend all your time alone? Do you contribute to the household at all? This all just feels really odd. Not the asshole. I would have checked with you if I hadn't gotten a response, not just assumed. I suggest talking about rules around the subject. The old assumption makes an ass out of you and me, but 100% not your fault. Poor Bubba, but your sis should have checked. I'm having a hard time understanding how you could not hear a crying 2-year-old, maybe you could elaborate on that? Not the asshole. She didn't have confirmation, and just left her kid in the house with no idea if you'd seen her message. Like she didn't even hand her child over to you before leaving? Just left the child in a room. It's horrible. She's blaming you for her mistake. How do you just not notice a screaming 2-year-old? If social services had been called, your niece would almost certainly have been taken away. Your whole family needs to buck up their ideas and start raising this child properly. Edit. Genuinely hope some of you are never put in charge of children. I have to go with Esh. While your sister was wrong to leave her kid in your care without actual confirmation from you, it seems like you've been isolating yourself from your family. It reads as you're self-centered. You do not participate in household activities, my interpretation. Please correct if I am wrong, and you do not take responsibility for being difficult to contact, while being in the same house. Whether or not you apologize, I think it will benefit you and your family if you tried maybe spending a little more time with them once in a while. I mean, you can't be an asshole if you legitimately didn't know the child was in the house and alone. Were you an asshole for telling your sister it's her fault? No, because it really was her fault. She really should have verbally confirmed with you about this. Still, it's probably better to apologize since you pretty much live in their house and from what I read don't contribute much. Info. Had you read the message? How did you not hear the child all day? Did you not see an unread message all day? I don't believe your side of the story at all. You're not the asshole for not babysitting, but let's be clear, if your resistance to acknowledge other humans resulted in a dog being abused in the same way as this toddler, half of Reddit would be doxing you right now. You're clearly severely fucked up and that's okay, but why aren't you learning about safe ways to set boundaries? And I get that you want to be left alone, but you're going to need to go live in a tent without anyone's financial help for that. Not the asshole. If you didn't reply to her text, then she should have assumed you didn't see it and confirmed in person. As a mother, I never would have just left my baby without first checking that everyone was on board and informed. There's no excuse for that. She is the mother, and it's her responsibility, and unfortunately her child is the one who paid for it. Not the asshole. You legit didn't know she as an adult is the asshole and is responsible for her child and making sure you agreed face to face. Also your parents WBTA if they kept enabling her by making you apologize. Info. You couldn't hear a 2-year-old screaming and crying? Everyone sucks here. Your sister should have confirmed. That's obvious. It sounds like you don't contribute to your household and the way you talk about your niece here is also concerning. She's a human being, not a hamster. Everyone sucks here. That is a whole lot of extra detail to try and justify yourself. Your sister is the asshole for not getting a confirmation from you. You're the asshole for not checking your phone when you wake up like every other normal person. Everyone sucks here. I find it hard to believe you never saw your sister's messages all day. Your lack of concern for your niece is appalling. And while your sister should have checked in and confirmed, I think you saw the message and were hoping by not responding to circumvent responsibility that day. Doesn't sound like your sis asks you often? Not the asshole. Don't apologize for her being a neglectful parent and definitely make it clear that you won't be responsible for her and to not make that mistake again. She needs to learn her lesson. Until her kid doesn't need to depend on anybody to be fed or changed, you gotta make sure someone is gonna do it for you. Not text someone and assume they saw it. For the peace of the family, all of them including the baby girl, teach her to be more careful about her childcare. It's her own fault her daughter was miserable that long. I don't buy this story for a second, your side of it anyways. I think if your sister texted you to watch her child, this wasn't the first time she's done it. I'm a mother of young child and the first couple times of getting a family member to watch my child I'd be making sure they could, but if it's common practice I could understand how she'd become complacent and in a hurry needed to resort to this without checking with you properly. Second, how could you not hear a child or be aware of their presence? You said you got food and had a shower, and you surely couldn't have had earphones in the whole time. Third, you have no remorse for a 2-year-old who was neglected. You are the asshole. Not the asshole. She is a garbage parent. She did nothing to confirm that you had seen the message or accepted to babysit. What if you were out? You even live under the same roof. She could have literally checked on you in person, but she didn't. She should have definitely done that before leaving at least. She's the mom, it's her responsibility to ensure that her daughter is okay, not yours. Not the asshole. Whenever I read stories like this I always wonder what the hell was going through the parents' head when they left their child effectively alone. She must have known when she left that you were asleep, and she still left her 2-year-old at home completely unsupervised. Despite the fact you hadn't replied to the text, so she also didn't know whether you had received it. Hell, if you were in your bedroom with the door closed and had been all morning, she didn't even know for sure that you were in the house. This is entirely on your sister. Who on earth leaves a baby without physically handing it to the sitter and explaining how they doing, what mood they are in, if they've eaten already, etc.? What if you were ill? Had plans? Weren't even home? That's bonkers. You're not the asshole, but your sister is. I think you pretty much ignored noise, messages or whatever. Your story does not add up at all. Your sister response was out of line. Apparently you have the strongest headphones in the planet. You didn't remove them, not even to shower or whatever. You didn't check your phone. Did not see a single notification. Did not see the baby anywhere. Did not bother to check if you were alone, even while visiting common areas such as the kitchen. Time to admit you decided to ignore this whole thing, and even if you are depressed or whatever, this is not an excuse for this awful behavior. Apologize to your sister and be a better human. You are the asshole, Esh. Imagine how alone, scared and sad she must have felt as she cried for help and nobody came hour after hour. If nothing else, you should feel bad for that and apologize for contributing or at least failing to notice. Instead you just embrace the fact you are an unreliable, woefully immature, slovenly, useless failure to launch leeching off your parents. Your sister is similar but also a criminally negligent mother. I'm really sad for your niece. That is an emotionally scarring experience she may remember for the rest of her life. I hope someone calls CPS. Not the asshole for this particular incident, but you need to not have headphones on all day, because if something had happened, even if you weren't expected to watch your niece and everyone was home, how would you know? I'm wondering how often you check your phone? You just may need to acknowledge you do live in a home with others and can't completely cut yourself off from them. Your sister is a bad mother. Not the asshole. Just because she sent a message, it does not mean it has been read or that the content has been accepted. Would she do the same with a paid childminder? Obviously not, so why with you? It is her child and her responsibility. You are the asshole for trying to be a troll. Pretty much this exact story was posted a couple of weeks ago. Not the asshole. She's didn't verbally follow up to make sure her child was being watched. Shitty parenting on her part. If it's important, you don't leave it up to a text message that wasn't responded to. Your sister caused this mess herself. It's a relatively minor point, but the rest has been well covered already. Your sister texted you that she'd be out, for the morning, to watch niece, until the afternoon, then didn't make it home until going on 4 without calling to tell you? That by itself is some pretty thoughtless behavior. Not the asshole, and whatever you do, don't apologize. She'll take that as an admission that there was nothing wrong with dumping niece on you by text, and next thing you know. Not the asshole. You did not agree to watch the child and there was no handoff of the baby. Your sister was neglectful, in not confirming you were available, willing to babysit, and understood the baby was in your care. Given your sister's behavior, it would be reasonable to explain to her that you will no longer babysit for her at all. She has no right to expect free babysitting, nor to blame you for her parental failures. Not the asshole. Even if you had agreed to watch the child, she should have stopped by your room to tell you that she was leaving and it was time to start watching the child. Who just leaves without touching base with the babysitter? That's crazy. Not the asshole. WTF is it with so many parents reported here who do not explicitly confirm that someone they are leaving a child with is on board and prepared to provide the necessary care a child needs? I had 4 kids in 4 years, and definitely needed a break once in a while, more than that TBH, but would never, ever, have left my kids with anyone without very explicit confirmation and clear willingness on the part of the temporary caregiver that they were engaged and ready to do the job. I'm gonna sound harsh, but you and her family need to tell her to buck up. It was irresponsible of her to leave her baby alone without confirmation. And you definitely shouldn't have to apologize cause she messed up. I'm sure it's hard for her, but she isn't gonna do herself any favors if she doesn't learn. Not the asshole. We are missing a lot here. I find it very, Very hard to believe that over the space of 18 plus hours, you didn't once look at your phone and see a message from your sister. You are the asshole. I can't get my head around being a complete slug and on your watch, whether you knew it or not. A 2-year-old in your family sat hungry in their own shit screaming while you slept till 1 in the afternoon. You should be ashamed. You should also take some time to reflect on what is important in life. Tip: it's your loved ones. Not the asshole. I'm sorry you are a terrible parent who leaves their child with an unreliable person without so much as a confirmation. There you go. Not the asshole. It was very irresponsible of her. You helping out would be nice, but she's not entitled to it and it's 100% on her to have assumed. Not the asshole. She had no way of knowing if you saw the message or agreed, so she did leave her child unattended. You both need to get your heads out of your asses. It's not a hat. Do not assume for your sister. God, she needs to check herself. Try to be a bit more present for you. I get needing to do your own thing to de-stress, but you're not an island and you're living under your family's roof. You're all shit people. There's a young child who was left alone hungry and soiled. Child Protective Services needs to be called, not that they would do shit. I feel so bad for the baby and am disgusted with the adult children here. Jesus. You wanna be isolated and alone? Get your own fucking place, loser. Not the asshole. I wouldn't just abandon a pet without confirmation that someone is taking care of it, let alone a child. It was hugely irresponsible of your sister to just assume you'd agreed to or even seen her text without a reply from you. Not the asshole at all. She should have confirmed you seen it, not just assume. You are the asshole for not caring at all or feeling even a bit of remorse. Technically you are correct that the baby is not your responsibility. But the cavalier and apathetic response to your niece, a blood member of your family, was completely miserable and didn't know how to do anything about it, is absolute bullshit. You should at the very least feel bad or sad for your niece. So, she lives in the same house as Op and she texts about babysitting arrangements? And carries on without confirmation? Yeah, like someone said, she wanted it to be true and her explosion just confirms that she knows the blame is on her for that. It must have been a really hard realization. Have a talk heart to heart with sister, if you can. She looks like she's struggling with more than just this episode. Having been a single parent myself for a while, I had been in her shoes and I can tell you it's so hard doing it all. Sometimes we need a break and it's good to know we have someone to have our backs. Good parents doubt themselves all the time, so it's even harder when someone else points the finger to our very much known shortcomings. Either way, Op is not the asshole. Not the asshole. Did she not even see if you were awake or say goodbye before she left? She is irresponsible. Not the asshole. Your sister was grossly irresponsible. You have to get confirmation for childcare. Imagine just leaving your kid at a daycare you hadn't signed up for with a note taped to the kid, "I'm gonna be gone this morning." While your sister should have confirmed in person and not just left your niece in the house, who just leaves their kid off without actually making sure the babysitter is there and awake. The fact that you couldn't hear a 2-year-old screaming and crying even after saying you left the room to go get something to eat and were awake is outrageous.